Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to find and master your main role in Marvel Rivals, some factors to consider when choosing that role, and then top it off with some tips that you might not have considered when playing the game. This video is going to be aimed at newer players, so if you're already experienced in the genre, you might want to skip ahead. You need to first ask yourself some questions. Do you feel like you want to be the anchor of your team? The one who holds the line, absorbs the pressure, and creates opportunities for your teammates to shine while also being one of the vital roles in any team composition? Then the Vanguard role might just be for you. Vanguards are the tanks of Marvel Rivals, built to take and deal damage, create space, and open opportunities for the rest of their team to push the site. It's a role that demands respect and should never be underestimated. Tanks are usually always in demand due to the lack of players choosing this role. This isn't just because people want to deal damage or have the highest eliminations, it's also because of the unique challenges the role brings. First off, playing Vanguard comes with a lot of responsibility. You're expected to lead the charge, start team fights, and be the one to peel for your backline. This can be overwhelming for players who aren't comfortable with being the center of attention or making split-second decisions. Second, the role can feel thankless at times. While your actions are critical to your team's success, your contributions might not always be recognized in the same way as a duelist's high eliminations or a strategist's clutch heals. The lack of visible glory usually is what turns people away from the role. And lastly, the pressure to perform is much higher. If the team loses a fight, you may be blamed for not engaging properly, not peeling enough, or not holding space effectively. The mental load of this role can be a deterrent for players who prefer a more straightforward playstyle, but it's precisely because of these challenges that the Vanguard role stands out. If you can rise to the occasion, you'll not only be the backbone of your team, but also a player who shines in ways that others can't. Moving on to our next set of questions. Do you love being the star of the show? Getting eliminations, dealing tons of damage, outplaying your enemies, and being the main reason why the other team just feels helpless against you? Then Duelist might be the perfect role for you. Duelists are the primary damage dealers in Marvel Rivals. They have the largest roster in terms of heroes to choose from. They excel at dealing devastating blows to enemies, whether it's through high burst damage or sustained damage over time, melee or ranged, projectiles or hit scan. No matter your preferred playstyle, there's a Duelist out there for you. Damage dealers are the most played role in almost every game because they allow players to showcase individual skill while being supported by their team. It's a role that rewards quick reflexes, clever positioning, and critical decision making to capitalize on every opportunity available. But being a duelist isn't all glory. There are some challenges and some downsides to this role as well. Firstly, the competition is fierce. Since Duelist is the most popular role, there's always pressure for you to perform, and if you're underperforming, your team will not hesitate to call you out and demand you to change your role from that Duelist role. Secondly, your position in terms of where the composition or where the team fights take place is kind of awkward because you're sort of in the middle. You're not on the front lines with the tank, and you're not all the way in the back lines with your strategists. You're sort of somewhere in the middle. If you're playing like a mid-range duelist or a sniper duelist, you're going to be very far away. That makes your positioning very crucial, but also means you'll frequently have to deal with focus attacks, flanking enemies looking to shut you down. And if your positioning is not the best, then you're not really going to have a good time. Thirdly, consistency is key and mistakes are costly. Duelists are expected to deliver consistently high damage throughout the match. A single misstep like being caught out of position or missing critical headshots can turn a winning fight into a loss. The margin of error is much smaller compared to other roles. Finally, you may need to heavily rely on your team. And what I mean by that is that while duelists can deliver the flashiest of plays, they still need strong support from their strategists to stay alive and vanguards to create space. If your team isn't coordinated, you might struggle to reach your full potential, which can be frustrating. Despite these challenges, duelists are the heartbeat of every team's offensive strategy. If you thrive under pressure, love making flashy plays, and enjoy the thrill of outmaneuvering your opponents, then this role will keep you coming back for more. And now leading into our last but not least, the strategist role, and the question that you should ask yourself here is that, do you want to be the reason that your team is even winning the team fight? Do you want to be the reason why your tank and your duelists are capping the point? Then the strategist role is calling your name. Strategists are the lifeline of any team composition in Marvel Rivals. You're not just a heal bot. You are a support character. You're also there to take part in the fights. Strategists combine healing with essential team-focused abilities such as buffs or crowd control effects to hinder the enemy's team progress and turn the tide in critical moments. You'll always have a direct hand in your team's success. The best way that I can sort of describe this role is the babysitter. You do so much to keep your team up and everyone depends on you to support them, but when things go wrong, regardless of how much you've done, you're usually the one who's blamed for not healing enough or you get called for trolling. As the babysitter, you'll often find yourself having to manage your tank who overextends or your duelist who dives headfirst into danger manager without thinking. It can feel like you're constantly trying to keep them alive despite their questionable life choices. And that's not all. You're also public enemy number 1, by the way. Vanguards, Duelists, and even enemy strategists will do everything in their power to keep you out of the game for as long as possible. They just want you to step away from your controller, from your keyboard. They want you to turn your PC off or your console off, because as long as you stay alive, your team stays alive, which puts a giant target on your back. Despite these challenges, strategists are the game changers of any team composition. If you enjoy being the key to your team's success and you love having whether it's a direct or indirect impact on your team's success, then the strategist role is for you. Alright, so now that we've discussed what the roles are and we've asked ourselves these questions and we've decided on a main role, some general tips include communicating with your team. Always keep your team informed about what you're doing and what you need. Call out enemy positions and coordinate pushes. If you're feeling shy or don't have a mic, the ping system should be just fine. The next one is adapt. You need to be flexible. Sometimes you'll have to switch heroes to counter the enemy team or better support your own. Don't try to brute force a specific choke point if it isn't working for you or an unfavorable hero matchup for you. And our third point is positioning. Always be mindful of where you are on the battlefield. Avoid overextending, stick with your team, and ensure you're contributing without putting yourself at unnecessary risk. Our fourth point is objectives. Focus on what's going to win your games, and that is the objective. Yes, damage blocked, damage done, elimination, healing done, these are really nice stats to have. But at the end of the day, there's no point having really high stats if you've just lost the game. And our last general tip is don't tunnel vision. Sometimes it's easy to get carried away by focusing on one specific target while not focusing all the utility that's being thrown at you to stop you from getting that elimination. Stay aware of your surroundings and don't tunnel vision. Only go for plays that you are sure to win 100% of the time instead of 50% of the time. Now moving on to our role specific tips, and starting us off are the tips for Vanguards. Our first point is awareness. Your teammates are relying on you to protect them from enemy threats. Stay aware for flankers or divers and be ready to disrupt them to keep your strategists and your duelists safe. The second tip we have are ultimate combos. Your ultimate is often a tool to enable high impact plays. Communicate with your duelists to execute combos that you can use to quickly win fights, and if you don't seem to find a decent combo, then just make your own play. Don't hold your ultimate hoping that you'll get all 6 enemies in one ultimate. If you can get 2 or 3 backline enemies in one ultimate, then that's great value on its own. Our third point is controlling the space. Use your tankiness to hold or contest key positions, giving your team the advantage, but don't overcommit. Always ensure that you and your team can follow up safely. 4. Managing your cooldowns. Key abilities like shields or damage mitigation can mean the difference between surviving a fight or losing it. Use them strategically to protect your team and yourself, and always try utilizing natural cover to minimize the amount of risk and resources spent on you to keep you alive. That covers our tips for Vanguards. Now moving on to our tips for Duelists. Our first point is target priority. Aim for high-value targets first, like supports or squishy damage dealers. Eliminating them early can limit the enemy team's ability to fight back. The second point is maximizing your damage output. Stay in positions where you can deal the most amount of damage while minimizing the amount of risk of being targeted yourself. Peek, poke, and then commit when it's safe. Our third point is overflanking. Flanking can be very powerful, yes, but always keep an escape route in mind. And don't overdo it, because the enemy team will expect you to do it over and over again. And if you get picked off without a support, you will leave your team vulnerable for the upcoming teamfight. The fourth point is peel for your strategists when needed. When your Vanguard is pushing or creating space, be prepared to deal with enemies targeting your strategists. Eliminating flankers ensure your team's lifeline stays strong. And our final point is punishing enemy mistakes. Take advantage of moments when you see someone out of position. You have all the skills you need for a quick execution while minimizing the mistakes that you make. Don't risk diving in on a support that's out of position only for them to regroup with their team and outnumber you. If you can get the elimination, great. If you can't, then just retreat, it's fine. Now moving on to our last but not least role tips for today are the tips for strategists. The first one is balance healing and damage. You are a support, you're not a heal bot. Use your damage abilities to pressure enemies and secure kills while keeping your team in the fight. Strike a balance that maximizes your impact. The second tip for strategists is tracking enemy ults. As the lifeline of your team, you're often the one responsible for countering or mitigating key enemy ultimates. Save your abilities to negate high damage ultimates and keep your team alive during those critical moments. The third tip for strategists is utility. They have buffs, debuffs, and even crowd control to disrupt enemy plays and ensure your team stays safe. The fourth and final tip for the strategist is prioritizing yourself. While your primary focus is supporting the team, remember that you're a high-value target, and if you're being pressured, don't hesitate to shift resources to protect yourself, even if it means momentarily pulling back from healing or damaging to stay alive. Staying alive as a strategist often matters more than a single clutch heal or assist, or even an assist on an elimination, because the longer that you live, that's how you as a strategist will carry your games. And that's a wrap on finding your perfect role, along with some tips and tricks for each of them. Let me know in the comment section down below what roles you're planning to main, or if you have any strategies that work well for you. If you found this video helpful, please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to see more content just like this. I am planning on making some hero guides later on in the future, so stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.